Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're plunging into a truly unique and, frankly, pretty astonishing set of sources.
Yeah, quite something.
We've got this transcript from a YouTube video, 2120 ES Monica, C283P1, Papa Leon IV, Hypnoperador, Team Grifasi, Ilna Martin. It makes some extraordinary claims about a new figure, Pope Leo XIV, also identified as Robert Francis Raff.
And it's all based on a telepathic investigation, apparently.
Exactly.
So our mission today is really to unpack these pretty wild claims. We're digging into everything from, metaphysical insights into his essence to the hidden power dynamics the source describes.
Right.
But that's not all, is it? We've also got a second source from the same channel.
Yes, and this one gives a really vital perspective on the challenges and the actual nature of doing these investigative sessions, adds a whole other layer.
It really does. Context is key here.
So settle in, because this is a deep dive unlike any we've done before. Let's explore what this material claims about power, identity, and maybe even reality itself.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack this first bit. Our sources kick off with what they call an etheric DNA scan of this Robert Francis Raff figure. This was before his supposed election as Pope Leo XIV.
Right.
What did this telepathic scan apparently reveal about him?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is the sheer number of modifications they report. The investigation claims he has, get this, 214 hybridizations.
214?
Yeah. And it doesn't stop there. They mentioned artificial intelligence modifications, too.
AI modifications.
Okay.
And maybe the most striking part, he's reportedly perceived as an object, not really as a living being in the way we'd understand it.
An object. That's quite a statement. What about his origins? Did they say where he or it came from?
His original species is identified as Veral. Now, in these sessions, Veral seems to point to a specific non-human ancient lineage.
Okay.
And in this case, distinctly reptilian. They even mentioned seeing reptilian eyes. And the psychic apparently perceived a kind of reptilian humor, like an energetic sweat or an emanation. An energetic sweat. Okay. This is where it gets really, really strange, though. The source says before the election, he was apagato, inactive.
Right. Apagato switched off.
Like he was in standby, just waiting to be turned on with a switch. What did they think that implied?
Well, this leads them straight into the whole concept of clones. The investigation states he has 4 clones in total.
4. Why?
Apparently, it's because of the intense energetic wear and tear involved in this role he's meant to play. He's basically described as a container.
A container.
Yeah, or vessel for other essences, providing temporary passage, the source says, for beings like deceased cardinals.
So wait, if he's a container, are you talking about new souls or beings each time, or?
No, that's the thing. The source is really clear. They are always the same, just reincarnating in different adult bodies.
Oh, wait, the same ones.
Precisely. So the core idea here, according to this source, isn't a single person becoming pope. It's more like a constructed, maybe even interchangeable vessel, designed for a very specific, very demanding energetic job.
Okay, so given that incredible backstory, what did the telepathic sessions see at the moment of his election, from this metaphysical viewpoint?
Well, even during the election ceremony, he apparently remained inactive, still, as if he had a switch.
Still switched off.
Yeah, which suggests his real work, his designated function, doesn't actually kick in until later, after the public event.
The source then talks about the dome, the real decision makers behind the scenes. Who are these figures?
Right, the dome. The investigation describes a mix in there, both physical beings and purely energetic entities.
And many aren't human.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
Many not human, or various hybridizations. The psychic gives some pretty vivid descriptions.
Like what?
A powerful dragon, they say, dinosaur-like, dark-colored. Other humanoids hidden by dark hoods, so invisible. Then there's a very rare hybrid with insectoid human and octopus DNA.
Octopus, okay.
And then, this is a really strange detail, a 33rd degree Mason holding a whip who apparently recognizes the psychic conducting the session from some past life or existence.
Wow. So the public role of the Pope, it's just a front, a facade.
According to this source, yes. His energetic part is totally inactive, asleep. It's being conserved, waiting to be turned on when his role as that container fully starts. It's like saving battery power almost.
And these clones you mentioned, where are they kept? The description was pretty unsettling.
Yeah, it is. They're stored in a closet, like a glass window, connected up to monitors, described almost like suits ready to be put on.
Suits ready to wear.
Exactly. And this storage chamber, they say, is in a lab in the same city as the Pope, but you access it through a portal.
A portal. To where?
To a hidden ship, apparently.
A ship. Okay, this whole picture implies a very, very predetermined path for Leo XIV, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Engineered, almost.
Yeah.
The source claims he only has 4 possible timelines, and each one corresponds directly to one of those 4 clones.
So no free will in this scenario?
Pretty much none, according to this. He reportedly has no voice or vote in his own destiny. They describe him as a totally enslaved being, which brings us back to that idea of him being essentially an object.
An object. It really makes you question the nature of identity in this context.
Definitely.
Let's rewind just a bit then. Who was this Robert Francis Raff, this vessel in a past life? Did they look into that?
They did. The source states he was not human in his previous life.
Not human before either.
Nope. This current human form is described as a sort of reset, specifically for this important role, his original existence, as a reptile.
A reptile?
Yeah.
And what would attract a being like that to this specific path, this whole religious structure?
Well, the source says he was very attracted to this energy of condemnation, the religious concepts of heaven, hell, limbo, that whole duality.
And reptiles are drawn to that.
That's the claim here. They find that specific energetic frequency appealing.
Okay.
And interestingly, it also mentions that before this current life, maybe 20 years prior, he was actually a cardinal.
A cardinal? From the dome.
Yes, from within that power structure.
Mm-hmm.
And he apparently accepted this current pope role as a kind of sacrifice.
A sacrifice for what?
To energetically gain power. Like building up credit in an energy bank is how they put it.
An energy bank.
Yeah, the idea being that eventually this would allow him to leave this whole system and create his own space somewhere else in the universe.
And a long game.
Very. Especially when you consider the next point about time.
Ah, yes, the time thing. The source mentioned something radical about how these beings perceive time. What was that?
It suggested that what feels like 80 to 100 years for us humans can feel like just 20 minutes to them.
20 minutes. That completely changes the perspective on planning and, well, everything.
Right. Decades become moments.
Okay. Moving to his name, Leo XIV. The source hinted there was some hidden information there, something concealed.
Yes, apparently information about the name just disappeared from the psychic's view at first, like it was blocked. Then they describe seeing this ancient book, maybe 800 years old, with writing going from bottom to top.
Unusual.
Yeah, and in this book, the name is recorded, but it was revealed the number is actually 13, not 14.
13. So why Leo XIV?
Through numerology, apparently, it becomes 14. And the psychic perceived this connection like a triangle or a trilogy. 1 plus 4 is 5, 4 minus 1 is 3.
Okay. How does that connect?
It supposedly relates to the 4 clones, how each one is subtracted as a body wears out or dies. And the very act of writing the name in this book reportedly imprints the life energy onto those 4 designated bodies, like activating them.
Imprints life energy. So who is doing the writing? Who is this writer?
Now this is a major figure in the narrative. This writer of the universe is described as a being completely outside the structure of the dome.
Outside the dome?
Yeah. Immense, formless, like a cosmic consciousness, described as a nebulosa of energy.
And this being creates
everything, basically. Worlds, spaces, energies, beings, including the original reptiles themselves, according to the source.
Wow.
And this entity is the one who infuses life into those clones when the name is written.
Okay.
Oh, and there's another detail tied to this. The source also claims that high-level Masonic leaders actually pay to have their essences temporarily housed in these papal bodies after they die.
Pay for temporary housing while new bodies are prepared for them.
Exactly. Like a high-stakes metaphysical timeshare.
That is a mind-bending concept. Cosmic scale stuff. This deep dive also touched on prophecies related to Leo XIV's time as Pope.
It did. And tying back to that predetermined path idea, the source mentions another book, also in the Vatican.
Another book. What's in this one?
This is where the writer supposedly records the general timeline for Leo XIV's pontificate.
The general timeline?
Yeah, but it also acknowledges that human free will makes predicting specifics really hard. Humans, it says, don't let themselves be managed, despite all the attempts at mental control were unpredictable.
That's somewhat reassuring, I suppose. Now, the source also said the ink of this writer, this powerful energy, has more immediate effects on humanity.
Yes, this was quite a concerning connection they drew. This potent energy, this ink, was linked to a specific mason within the dome.
The mason again. Doing what?
This figure supposedly controls the global food industry.
The food industry. How?
The claim is that the industry uses chemicals, metals, things not listed on labels to manipulate people, making us more susceptible to energetic fields.
Affecting us how?
Impacting our thoughts, minds, emotions, our bodies, acting as a kind of mass temporary interference.
Wow, okay. What about the bigger picture, geopolitics? What did the vision show happening after his election?
The vision was quite stark. Earth transformed into a flat, colorless map. No borders, no division.
No divisions.
Right. The stated goal for these controlling entities, the source says, is one Earth, one government.
A single world order.
But interestingly, the source then calls this an illusion for them, because other entities apparently exist that have even more energetic power, limiting what the dome can actually achieve.
So a power struggle even above them.
Seems like it. Layers upon layers.
Did any part of the world remain outside this control grid in the vision? A neutral zone?
Yes, Antarctica. A South Pole described as untouchable, totally impenetrable, and neutral by nature. A blind spot for these forces, apparently.
Interesting. Okay, so bringing it back to Leo IV himself, what is his pontificate, his time as Pope, actually predicted to be like?
The plan, according to the source, is for it to be very open to modern ideas.
Open how?
Incorporating things like meditation, energy work, universal connection concepts, trying to attract a broader, maybe younger audience.
Updating the brand, so to speak.
You could say that.
Oh.
And internal changes, too. Even modifying traditional church services.
Oh.
All designed to appeal to what they call new essences.
New essences. Okay. Let's go back for a moment to that huge, powerful writer of the universe.
Right, the nebulosa.
This being creates everything, including the original reptiles who weren't originally interferers, you said.
Correct.
So what's this being's view on all the manipulation and suffering that its creations are apparently causing? Does it care?
From the source's description, not really, initially. It views the universe as needing movement, like a dynamic balance of different energies. It sees things from this vast, detached, universal context.
Detached?
Yeah. The psychic specifically noted that the entity didn't seem to care about human suffering because, well, it simply doesn't experience it. It's just part of the cosmic ebb and flow from its perspective.
Okay, but this led to a really extraordinary moment in the session, didn't it? The psychic actually challenged the writer.
That's right. This was pretty unprecedented, based on the transcript. The psychic didn't just observe, they directly questioned the writer, asked why it was imbalancing our space, our reality, even suggested it should try imbalancing its own nebulosa if that's how things should work.
How did the writer react to being called out like that?
Apparently, it was completely caught off guard. It didn't understand why it was being listened to or why it should be considered responsible for what its creations did. Like a child being questioned about their toys breaking something.
Wow, and then the psychic took it even further.
A huge step further. The psychic literally showed the writer what human suffering feels like. Directly transmitted the sensations, pain, anguish, fear, chaos, sadness, despair, confusion, illness, lovelessness. The whole spectrum.
A direct download of human pain to a cosmic entity. What happened?
The being cut off. The experience almost instantly.
Cut it off. Why?
Because, the source says, it understood what it means not to want to experience that. It got it. And reportedly, it began to feel empathy for the human condition, something totally new for it.
Empathy from the creator of reptiles. That's profound. It suggests maybe even these vast intelligences can learn or change.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
That a direct experience, even a transmitted one, can shift perspective, even on that scale. It's a surprising glimmer of potential.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it also brings us back to a fundamental question. Given how incredible, how out there all these claims are, how reliable can any information from these hypnotic sessions actually be? Did the source address the method itself?
Yes, and this is absolute crucial. It's where that second source material really comes into play, and it's quite blunt about it.
How blunt?
It states very clearly that information obtained through hypnosis is very, very contaminated.
Very contaminated. Okay. How? What makes it so unreliable?
Well, the source explains it in a few ways. First, even if the information starts pure, it has to travel through many dimensions, many densities, and through different consciousnesses and intelligences along the way. And these intermediaries can distort it, either voluntarily or involuntarily.
Sure, like a game of cosmic telephone.
Exactly. But then there's the human element, too.
Yeah.
The hypnotized person's own stuff, their beliefs, mentality, perspectives, opinions, all, that can significantly contaminate the information as well. Add layers of personal bias.
So if it's that easily contaminated, how do they claim to get any accurate information? How do they filter it? It sounds almost impossible.
Well, they emphasize that a single investigative session, like the one we're discussing, isn't reliable in isolation. You can't just do one and say, this is the truth.
So what's the process then?
True investigation, they claim, requires a very strict, common protocol used across hundreds or even thousands of sessions with many different people.
Hundreds or thousands. Okay.
And only the information that comes up consistently that's common to all or almost all of those sessions that can be considered a potential gold nugget of truth.
A gold nugget, meaning most of it isn't.
Exactly. They admit it's a very small percentage of the total data gathered, and they also warn that the entities contacted can just lie, give false info, pretend to be someone else, manipulate details, for their own agendas.
Right.
So it really leaves you, the listener, with a big question. How do you possibly discern what might be real when the method itself is acknowledged as being so potentially flawed and open to manipulation? That's a huge caveat. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We also took some specific questions from you, our listener, thanks to Diego, who sponsored this deep dive.
Right, Diego's questions.
First one. Diego asks, what's the connection between this Leo IV and the miracle of Iten in Chiclayo, Peru? It happened back in 1649, but apparently repeated in 1954 and 1960.
Okay, according to the source material we reviewed, there's no specific interest from this particular pope in those specific events.
No direct link?
Not really. It's presented more as a general energetic pattern of the Catholic religion itself. Meaning a process of absorption of human energy, like faith, devotion, and then giving back just a small amount. Yeah. What we perceive as miracles. It's framed as a way to maintain belief, an energetic transaction, rather than a unique miracle tied to him.
An energetic transaction.
Okay.
Second question from Diego. What esoteric relationship does Leo IV have with Peru? Keen specifically, in this figure called the Child of Light. Again, the investigation suggests the connection is purely energetic and based on belief. If people there believe in the religion, in the Pope, then there's a connection. He apparently sends out energetic jets, like targeted energy streams, to those believers. But for those who don't believe, there's no connection. It's belief activated, essentially.
Got it. Third question. Was there an unpublicized reason why Pope Francis supposedly called Raft, the future Leo XIV, to Rome for important jobs before the election?
Yes, the source claims there definitely was.
And what was it?
It was for energetic splicing.
Energetic splicing? What's that?
It's described as kind of metaphysical process, basically preparing his clones, his bodies, connecting or integrating them into some pre-existing energetic network or blueprint, getting them ready to house the designated essences.
So setting him up for the role well in advance.
Exactly. His election wasn't a choice by the conclave, according to this source. It was pre-designated. The splicing was part of that setup.
Okay. And Diego's final question, a big one. Will Leo XIV be the last pope?
Based on the timeline projected in this specific session, no.
No.
Another pope is apparently foreseen after him. However, there's a big caveat.
Which is?
The source states that if this whole energy group, the institution, the religion, can't sustain itself energetically, if the energy input drops too low, then the Catholic religion, as we currently know it, will end. But again, they stress that human unpredictability, our free will, could change everything. It's not set in stone.
Always that element of human choice. Okay, one last really fascinating detail that came up in the session notes. It involves the former U.S. leader, Trump.
Ah, yes, the photo.
An official White House photo, supposedly made with AI, showing him dressed as a pontiff, like a pope. Did the source connect this to Leo XIV or the power dynamics?
It did, very directly. It's interpreted as a message.
A message. From who to who?
From another power group, Trump's group, according to the source, to the religious power group.
And the message is?
Basically, I am the power. We can be what you are, and we can remove you quickly.
A power play. So confirming this idea of warring factions.
Exactly. Described explicitly as a war of groups, fighting over control of energy and, well, us human beings.
And how did the source characterize these groups?
Trump's group is described as totally reptilian.
Yeah.
Energetically dark, greenish-black, driven by a desire for power and anger.
Okay. And the religious group?
Also has reptilian leadership, according to the source, but it's more mixed with other species involved. So it's these two powerful reptilian influence groups clashing for total control.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has, it's really taken us to some unexpected places, challenging how we might think about power, identity, maybe even reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've gone through claims of a pope being essentially a reptilian AI-enhanced object, manipulated by unseen forces with clones, predetermined timelines. It's a lot.
It is. And just as importantly, maybe more importantly, we've looked at how this kind of information is supposedly gathered.
Right, the methodology. Its inherent contamination, the huge effort needed to find even tiny gold nuggets of potentially shared information across many sessions.
Which really brings up a crucial question for you listening right now. When the information itself, especially about hidden power structures, is presented as being so complex, so hard to verify, potentially so contaminated, how do you, as an individual, navigate all that? How do you make sense of the world?
It's a tough question.
It is. But maybe the ultimate takeaway, something the source itself seemed to conclude, is the power of human free will.
Yeah, despite all the alleged manipulation, all the clones and timelines and energetic controls, human beings remain unpredictable. Our choices, collectively and individually, can still shift the outcome, even on these grand cosmic scales they describe.
That feels like a powerful thought to end on. Your individual energy, your choices, they genuinely seem to matter in this, well, vast, weird, interconnected universe the sources depict.
They really do. Don't underestimate your own influence.
Thank you so much for joining us on this extraordinary deep dive. We really hope it sparked your curiosity, maybe made you think, and encouraged you to keep looking beyond the surface.